Hello, everyone. Here is Martin from Crypto Valley Association in Switzerland, Zug. I'm very happy that we can hold another Zoom meeting online event, Meet the Blockchain VC. It's the second or third edition. We're here and we want to make it and build a series where all of us, we can learn from experienced investors in the blockchain space to learn their views, their thesis, and what they do. I'm very happy to welcome today David Schreng-Messenbourg from Leadblock Partners and Sylvain Martin from Script. Unfortunately, Maya from On Group cannot be part of our today's meeting. We'll invite her for one of our next events. Unfortunately, we didn't schedule it right with the daylight saving schedule in the US and in Europe, as we have a different change summer winter time. There was a problem in the agenda, and Maya cannot attend now today. As I told you, we will do all our best to bring her at one of our next meetings. Now, I'm very happy to have you here, David and Sylvain. I think it's very interesting to learn from them. If we may quickly introduce David Schreng-Messenbourg, who's founding partner, Leadblock partner, I think with quite an impressive CV, as previously equity analyst, finance strategy, but also in R&D, pharmaceutical company, and personally also, as I have learned, very dedicated to combat ethnic and social inequalities. Leadblock, as I have seen, but we will learn more in our today's meeting, early stage and startup investor, mostly in business to business with French roots, I have seen. And you have also published a very interesting Enterprise Blockchain Report 2020. Thank you for that. I'll let you introduce a bit later, but let me second introduce Sylvain Martin, who is the Chief Operating Officer at Script. Script, the Swiss regulated asset manager who has different approaches in investing in coins, in cryptocurrencies, who is focused also, as I understand it, beside investment strategy, also in OCT trading, and who is able to change into and out of fiat currencies. So maybe David and Sylvain, I let you also introduce yourself if I have forgotten something, and otherwise we would like then to start with our questions. David.
Sure. Thanks, Martin, for the the invitation to join the panel. I'm really happy to be here with you as well, Sylvain. Again, I mean, you said most of it, but a brief word about myself and the fund. So I'm one of the founding partner of Leadblock Partners, and we are a venture capital fund focusing on B2B data-driven startups that are leveraging or looking to leverage blockchain technology as part of their product offering and architecture. But I guess we'll be expanding into that during the talk.
Yeah. Sylvain, do you would like to add a word?
Yeah, sure. Thanks for having us. It's also my pleasure to be here. A few words to Script. I mean, you described it well. We have a bit of a different approach, not necessarily a venture capital approach, but we have facilitate investments via our asset management arm, and working within the infrastructure of blockchain technologies, crypto assets, etc. So that's our prime focus. That's our expertise, and I'm looking forward to the questions and the discussions, which we'll discover much more, I believe.
Perfect. Thank you very much. Yes, as we are too, normally we have always we go through questions with each different panelists. I think today, as we're only two or have only you two as our panelists, I suggest that you just reply to each question. So my first question is always, why do you invest in blockchain technology? What is your thesis? Why, where,
Yeah.
why do you, and maybe also we can add directly the second question, where do you see its biggest potential? I think it's probably a different approach because you're a completely different investment approach, but maybe Sylvain, start, where do you see the opportunities?
Yeah, I think it's a complete new asset class with exponential growth, right? And that's one of the key things why blockchain technology. It has the potential to disrupt and innovate in many different traditional sectors, and I think that brings a lot of new approaches or new solutions to existing problems, and that's one of the key elements why we think technology or blockchain technology is interesting and why we want to be part of it. One example is a blockchain solves trust. It solves cross-border payments. It is barriers to entry. It allows land registry in a better, transparent way. There's new forms of accounting. It's much more transparent. So there we see the potential, and we have the feeling it's just at the beginning. There's much more to come. And when you ask me about what is the biggest potential, I would say it's an economic empowerment. For example, you see Celsius is paying more interest than traditional firms towards their investors. Big players are coming in now, 2020, 21, which was a boost for the whole industry. We have seen Bitcoin is leading the way. There's now developments in decentralized finance, NFTs, a lot of innovative solutions towards problems in the industry. And then my question is, what is next? What is after NFTs, and where does it go from there? So being part of that is the most interesting part, I think.
Yeah, thank you, David.
Yeah, I mean, it's fascinating area, and I'll switch to the slide, where we operate as a fund, which is on the B2B angle. So I mean, the rationale behind, I guess, our investment mandate here is relatively simple. If we think about it as of today, I mean, our society, our economy, people, government, corporates are all fed on data, and today more than ever, I mean it's becoming quite key and critical to secure and process that data. And the reason why we think blockchain is actually innovative on that front is that we see it as being key in the equation in order to capture that value. So the analogy that I like to give to illustrate that is to say, in today's environment, let's take the example in agriculture. You've got a farmer and you've got a sensor in the farm. The sensor is collecting data about, I don't know, chemical components in the soil. And that information is transferred into a centralized database that is controlled by the farmer. If you are a regulator or a third party or a consumer, you have all the rights to, put at doubt the actual information, because the farmer or the producer would have 100% of the control to modify that information. But suddenly, if you are putting a blockchain component between the sensor and the producer, the same data, the same information suddenly becomes a lot more valuable, because there is this component of trust being baked into that information. And that's very valuable. And blockchain technology, as such, that component is unlocking that potential. And that's why, we actually think that investing into blockchain is becoming critical, as I said, because it's the next leg to secure, but also to process that information in an efficient manner. where do I see the biggest potential? I'd say, you know, I'm pretty much of a believer with the fund that there's a lot of value to create in the protocol side, in the infrastructure side. But for us, I think that on the application, there's going to be even more value to create given the need today for corporates to accelerate their digital transformation. And we've seen that, you know, over the past 12 months that the agriculture industry, the healthcare industry, you know, the energy industry, you know, is very much pushing the entire organization to evolve, to innovate, and to leverage, you know, the huge amount of data that they've been generating, that they continue to generate, in order to turn that into a valuable piece of information.
Mm. Yeah, this is interesting, David. I mean, as your firm has also, as I mentioned, quite strong footprint in France, which I think it's a very important agricultural country in the heart of Europe. It's not surprising that you mention also agriculture. I mean, maybe tell us also here, I mean, protocol or also application wise, what did you see interesting, and maybe also where do you lie your focus on investment? Is it new protocols? Is it blockchain infrastructure project, or are it more applications?
I mean, to answer simply is we are focusing purely on the application side, because that's where our expertise, our experience, and where our network actually lies, because we are close to corporates across several industries, but also we've developed a strong expertise in, you know, the understanding of how certain industries are working, you know, what could be improved, and what are the kind of product that could help or facilitate that transition. So I'd say that as of today, we are still, and we have been very active in developing relationship and collaborating with different protocols, both on the private and public side, because this is essential. This is essential to understand what are the underlying development that will unlock certain functionalities or certain features that the entrepreneurs on the application layer will be able to exploit to provide a value to the end customers. So our belief is that we want to remain protocol agnostic. We want to remain close to most of the protocol, as I said, either on the private or public side, so that we can, you know, advance and evolve hand in hand with founders in the application layer that we back financially, and be in a position, you know, to provide the most relevant product to corporates and to consumers.
Thank you. And you, Silvan, I mean, maybe explain me, how do you see it? Do you, being an asset manager, do you invest in new protocols, in infrastructure projects, or in application? Or where do you invest to?
I mean, I think everybody who's investing now is investing in the infrastructure regardless, because we're quite early. And a lot of, let's say, different applications, David said in different sectors will come out at the later stage, which have a more robust underlying infrastructure and are making more sense overall. I mean, we at Scrip, we facilitate investments in all of these, in protocols, in infrastructure projects, or in applications. Why? Because we see the potential is there. It's still very early. We want to grow alongside the infrastructure and the economy, and our approach is to provide the service and participate in that growth, right? So on a personal note, I mean, I've participated in both, right? In protocols, in ICOs back in the day, in infrastructure projects. So we're not too focused on ICO participation, but I think working what the market has right now and making that attractive.
This leads me directly to the same question, and also to you, Silvan, maybe to begin. I mean, do I understand you right? You invest exclusively in token and not in equities. Is this right?
At the moment, we're more investing in tokens, yes, because we are quite new. We are coming out now. We're just launching our asset management arm We're coming from stealth mode, so we wish to have the balance sheet or the capital available to also invest in equity, right?
Yeah.
Looking at Coinbase, for example, who is doing their IPO very soon, which is now interesting and probably get a lot of people get rewarded in big scale. But with tokens, we kind of have a similar structure or a similar reward system where you can, for example, be part of Uni, a DEX, decentralized exchange, buying their utility token and being part of their development without having an equity investment in the underlying company. So I think that's the beautiful part of this whole cryptocurrencies, crypto tokens out there to participate in that as well without needing to have a lot of capital to make equity investments.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, there may be one question here, but the tokens you invest in, they're all basically listed somewhere, or are there also some illiquid tokens you would invest to?
We're working with a project together, which they allocate a lot of tokens to us to run a node for them. This is a project which is not in the top 10, let's say, markets from CoinMarketCap, but that's where the traction is there. We want to see. I think there's a few questions down the line also on how we approach or how we look at different projects, and yeah, making the analysis there to not just blindly invest in something which has not at all liquidity. So that's probably a question or an answer for later on.
Okay. And you, David, can you tell us, do you invest in tokens and or in equity, or only in equity?
We invest only in equity as of today, but as a fund, we're structured in a way which allows us to invest in equity related assets as well. But to be honest, right now we've been focusing on the equity side because that's the core of what we do as well.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, who are typically your investors?
I mean, for us, it's quite straightforward. I mean, the GP has invested significantly in the fund, and the majority of our investors are family offices, high net worth, and ex-colleague from Goldman that has been backing us. So it's been quite a good journey for us, despite the last 12 months of COVID environment. So we've been quite fortunate.
And with you, Silvan?
Well, we're targeting at Script. We're targeting institutionals mainly. That would be banks for the trading side, hedge funds, OTC desk, family offices. So these are the people we're targeting. Obviously, there's always the let's say the private family, close family circles which is involved, right, somehow. But the clientele which we attract or want to work with or on the institution side.
And so Silvan, in how many coins did you invest now with your fund? And then the same question, David, in how many startups did you invest?
If you want to go ahead, Silvan. We invested. I mean, we did the launch of the fund last year by seeding our first investment in a food tech company in France, and we are about to do a first closing of our fund in the actually right now. But in terms of investment, we are about to close one deal in 2 weeks, and working quite hard to close another 3 or 4 in the next 4 to 5 weeks. So there's going to be a massive jump, I'd say, from 1 to max 6 portfolio company within the next month or so.
I mean, you mentioned at the beginning, Martin, that we have an OTC trading desk, and through that we allow from fiat to crypto and the other way around, and we offer there over 200 pairs, right? So we can facilitate in different tokens more than buying into startups, which we said previously. So Script itself obviously has Allard has some, let's say, capital in different tokens using for liquidity to trading themselves. But then the strategies also go in, or the investment products also go in that side where we work with a lot of different tokens which are liquid or which are worth trading, and so that's our approach there.
Mm-hmm. If now an investor comes to you, Silvan, and wants to join your company, let's say more as a client than an investor, as I understand, what's the ticket size? How much does he has to bring? What's the threshold?
Yeah, of course. I mean, we differentiate there between the trading and the asset management. On the asset management side, we're talking over a minimum ticket size of $100,000 equivalent. On the trading side, we usually start at 25,000. Just with the recent increase on gas fees, blockchain fees, etc., that it makes sense also for us because we work on a competitive price model as well. To make these trades is the minimum is 25,000. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And David, with you, if someone wants to invest in your fund, in Lead Block Partners, is this possible? What is the size of an investment? And then maybe also on the other hand side, if you invest in a startup, what's the tickets you allocate?
On our fund side, I'd say the ticket size, on the low end of average around 100 to 200K. If I have to put an average on the low end, it goes above a million. And with regards to the investment that we're making, we're investing up to €1 million as part of the core investment from our fund. And typically what we do is that we tend to have a pocket of allocation that we manage for our, some of our LPs who would like, to increase their exposure in a specific transaction. And as such, we offer that opportunity. So the firepower that we get is a lot higher than our fund AUM as such, but that's also the approach that we're taking, to be very collaborative with the LPs that are in our fund, because at the end of the day, it's an ecosystem that is emerging, that is growing quite fast. But I still believe that there's some need to educate the different parties within that ecosystem, on the investor side, on the corporate side, on the governmental body side as well. So, to me, the more transparent, the more information and the more data point you can provide that people can rely on and they can trust, then the more genuine, the decision or understanding they will get out of it. That's I think the view that we are trying to push with our fund as well on the educational aspect.
Mm-hmm. Maybe here exactly. I mean, this leads me to another question to you. I mean, do you act as always, or do you act as lead investor, or you prefer co-investing with other lead investors?
I mean, we're super flexible on that front. I'd say if we have a strong expertise, if the size of the round justifies it, that we can lead the round, then we'll take that position. But we're not going to be tied to that. In any case, should we be lead or following a lead in an investment, we will always try and we'll always aim to be not only a financial investor, but a real strategic partner, because that's the value add that we want to bring to the startup and the founders that we back, by sharing our resources, sharing our network, and facilitating those discussions, so that as an early stage or startup in growth, you don't waste time trying to reach out to people within an organization, but we will facilitate the introduction with people that we know at the right level, with the right decision power, to start the collaboration and the discussion with the relevant topics, because we would have already had the discussion about what's their need, etc., ahead of the of the introduction or the discussion. So it's pretty much also creating a transparent and an open dialogue between what the corporates needs, what they're willing to pay for, and what the startup are offering, and what they need to meet in terms of standards in order to to enter the pipeline of a commercial agreement with a customer of the size.
Silvan, I think it's not really very applicable for your investment approach, as you do more like coin investments in bigger coin, or you also want to add something to this question?
Yeah, I mean, our resources as of now or at the moment are fully focused on growing Script itself, and not really going out there and trying to do lead investments. Yeah, if you put it that way and we invest in coins, then it's more co-investing, right, and not leading. But obviously, we would love to have some point in the future being at that stage where we also can make investments. I think it's a more co-investing approach, right? Again, the example of Coinbase, where it started, where it's now, the different companies or ventures they invested in as well as a VC, right? So that's definitely an interesting development.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, now for you maybe, or for you, Silvan, how is it? I mean, you're a licensed assets manager in Switzerland. Can you onboard for your products retail investor, or are you exclusively for qualified investors?
Again, on the trading side, we can onboard retail investors. Yeah. The question is, does it make sense? Because let's say our minimum is more around the $25,000 trading ticket, right? The difference there is retail is coming with a lot of administrative and operational time increase. That's why we're focusing more on the institutional side, because you onboard once, you do the KYC AML once, and then after that it's a smoother let's say process, and working more with the qualified investors. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Maybe for both of you again, also probably from you, Silvan, it's more on the client side. For you, David, more on the investment side. What is your due diligence procedure? Can you explain something about this? How do you go through the procedure of investment in a company or on onboarding a client?
I mean, for us is quite straightforward. I mean, we typically initiate either the dialogue or receive inbounds from startups, and the first step typically is just a form that we ask the startup to fill, just to make sure that we have the basic information about them, plus some sort of pitch deck or information about the business. Also for our records, if it's we can run a quick screening on if it's too early, if it's too late. Do we have belief in that expertise? Do we believe we have an expertise in the specific sector to prioritize a little bit? And typically, if the startup passed through the first screening that is done virtually automatically, then we will try to schedule a first call with the founders, discuss the product, listen to them, learn more about who they are, how they got to that point, and then after that, assuming that we got an answer to most of the question, we move into a further due diligence, where once advanced, agreed upon the investment committee, we can make an offer on with a term sheet, or if there's already a lead investor, is even faster, because typically you can share information and due diligence on that front. And of course, once we get that comfort, typically in the last stage of our assessment, we tend to speak with our close industry partners to validate that the product is relevant, that the team is well positioned, but also that the corporate, has the ability to collaborate with the future portfolio company in one way or another. And if all those boxes are ticked, that's when we pull the trigger and invest.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think for our side, I mean, the onboarding process, we don't have much wiggle room there. We're regulated entities, so we get at least some basic standards or what we need to comply with from the regulator or the regulatory body anyway. And once there all boxes are ticked, we can move forward to transactional business. But obviously, how we approach, let's say, or looking at the industry, we always look at different side of, for example, if it's a protocol, we look at this, how is the tech, what is the code, is it audited or not, how does the smart contract work, how does it look like, these kind of elements. The company itself, is it a regulated company, in which jurisdiction is it located, is it licensed, what is the governance of it, does it has any insurance or not, is it ready to for example, trade with their utility token or the native token of that company if they have one. Then we look at the team, who are the people behind, who is pushing that out, who is working there, what is their traction, what is their development roadmap, what is their mission, what is their value. So I think all these elements coming together to decide, okay, it's worth to follow that company or that infrastructure project, to pay close attention, included in an investment strategy, and then also create our own fact sheet with what is our risk management, how is our strategy there, what is the drawdown ratio, etc. What is the minimum ticket size we want to allocate, and then go out there and looking for additional investors who want to participate with us to invest in that product, right?
Interesting. Yes. Maybe now for you first, Silvan, are you region agnostic with your coins, or do you have certain preferences where from a project or a coin should come from? I
mean, at the moment, our client base is more focused in Europe, UK, and Switzerland. It's from a regulatory perspective quite attractive to work in that framework. If we go to the US, it's always questions of SEC, are you regulated there? Can you accept money, etc. I think in the Asian room, there's the language barrier, which we don't have covered in-house. So we're focusing more on this side. Africa is very attractive or very interesting on how they develop or what is developing there. One of our founding members, Norman, has some roots in Africa, so he has a good network there. So, but purely from an investment perspective, I think Europe, UK, Switzerland is the safe haven for us.
David, what do you mean? Where are the projects in which you invest?
In terms of geographic exposure, I'd say around 70% of our fund is going to be deployed in continental Europe, and then the last 30% will be outside, so i.e. in Asia Pacific or in the US. But overall, I'd say, back to your question on lead or co-investment, we will not lead a round that is outside of our of our geographical focus as such, because it wouldn't make sense. Not for us, not for the startup, not for anybody. So we tend to stick to what we know and where we are and where we can add value. And to us, having a lead position in your core market, in the key sectors that you understand, makes a lot more sense from a value creation standpoint.
I mean, if you had a look to your blockchain report, you had quite prominent participants, one member of parliament from the Assemblée Générale in France.
Mm.
Maybe here, just how do you assess the situation? I mean, we had until now quite some webinars as we do have today. And I mean, often also with US participation. And I mean, if you talk to people very often, I mean, they say, you know, that in the US we have some regulatory issue. Every state has a different approach. It's difficult to handle SEC and so on. Nevertheless, many important projects come out of the US. Here I mean, or also it was cited in your report, Bruno Le Maire, I think the economy minister in France, they wanted to make Paris as a hub for ICOs, which in my opinion did not really happen. Was also maybe a bit late when they started. So maybe tell me about now France, which you know well, and so how is the development in France and in Europe, and maybe afterwards, Sylvain,
Yeah.
please give us also your thoughts.
I think if we're looking at the B2B side as such, Europe has been, to my view, they've been dominating. The rest of the world has spent a lot of capital and focus towards the, you know, Sylvain, you were mentioning on the protocol side, on the infrastructure, more on the deep tech angle, I would say. Europe turned into the B2B side for financial services, for instance, you know, in the UK, I mean, a lot of application on, you know, security, token exchanges, tokenization as such, digitization of the backend for fund administration, etc. In France, we've seen a lot of application around luxury goods, agriculture, healthcare. So I guess, you know, depending on the experience of the founders in respective industries, you would see that tendency to launch ventures. The thing we shouldn't forget is the corporate application of blockchain properly started, I think, around 15, more around 2016, when Ethereum was emerging, when Corda from R3 was emerging as well, when Hyperledger was emerging. So we're only 4 or 5 years down the road. The first years were pretty experimental, and that's normal. People were trying to figure out, I guess, where the technology could fit, what would be the best use case. Today, at least what I feel from, you know, our exposure to the market and our discussion on different sides of the tables, are corporates know where the application, you know, is powerful. The founders are a lot more structured in their roadmap and the product they need to build, develop, and deliver to the market to have an impact. And we are turning away from seeing blockchain startups, but more software startups that are leveraging blockchain technology as part of their product offering. And that's becoming a lot more interesting, because to me and to my fund, what matters is you need to start from an industry challenge, an industry inefficiency, and then derive from that, okay, what's the issue? Is the market big enough? Do I have the ability to build a product that can solve part or all of it? And then only derive from, you know, what are the technological tools that I can use to strengthen my product offering and deliver value to my customers. That should only be, you know, on the later side of things. And I think that today I see a lot more entrepreneurs in that mindset that mimics the SaaS type or software businesses as such. And that's a lot more interesting, because the use of blockchain is coming on slide 6, 7, 8 as part of, okay, what's the technological architecture of your product? And that's powerful, because people understand the need, understand the size of the market, understand the product and the rationale why the team is, you know, suited to deliver on that vision. And only after that, you know, they start to talk about, okay, what technological component are part of it? AI, machine learning, blockchain, IoTs, whichever, it doesn't really matter. To me, does it have a real value as part of what you're trying to deliver to your customer? So it's been quite interesting on that front. And I'd say that, in Europe, it's been spread across many countries, but if we include the UK, I'd say UK, France, Germany, and Switzerland have been quite strong in the number of new startups that have been created, but also in the number of startups that have been able to evolve, grow, demonstrate customer traction and revenue traction as well, and raise additional funding rounds that start to become quite meaningful as of today.
Silvan, do you want to add something?
Yeah, I think what I can add is from a service offering perspective, right? It's quite challenging because there was not a lot of regulatory, let's say, guidelines in place. They were coming out 2020, right? So there was nothing in the UK. The FCA was completely overwhelmed, still is, with what's going on in the crypto space and how we can approach that, and that's a bit difficult to. How do you offer your products there, right? If you want to do business. I think one reason why we located in Switzerland is because Switzerland was quite industry leading from the very beginning and wanted to be, let's say, a crypto nation, crypto hub, as Bundesrat Schneider said once. And we always hit the roadblock of okay, what licenses do you need? What regulations do you have? Do you need to apply in these jurisdictions to offer your services? And often it's said like, oh, from a Swiss standpoint of view, it's all fine. You can do whatever you want. It's okay. Offer your services, but once you do more research and you ask these questions, you get hit with a huge questionnaire with a long application process, etc. So I think a lot of countries tried to be industry leading, but I would love to see more collaboration between all of them, especially in Europe, to, let's say, provide more guidelines overall. I think it's coming, but it's just very hard to push that out in a reasonable time manner.
Probably this applies not only to the blockchain space, I would say. Maybe I think David, he has to leave very soon. So I would like, to come to an end soon. But first, please let me ask you the questions. We have 3 questions which I would like to address to you. The first 2, they are for both of you. The third is for Silvan. So David, I would say if you have replied to this, please, I would say then you leave and go to your next meeting. I think we can find you on your respective websites if there is interest from our public to get in touch with you. But now let me address the questions. We have one question from Sam, who asks, what are your criteria for investing in an innovative blockchain startup? Are you investing in a private ICO?
On the ICO side, it's quite straightforward. The answer is no, because we invest in equity. And what we look for typically, if I'm talking on the early stage side, is, well, no matter if we're talking about blockchain, AI, or anything, it's early stage investing. So I'd say that the majority of the focus is on how strong, how relevant, how efficient is the founding team, and how they're going to be able to execute on their vision and build the product. So that is for us a massive driver of decision. But on the back of that, I'll say, how mature is the specific industry, because a new software solution can be groundbreaking, but if the corporate side is not ready to adopt it, then we might be a bit early. So generally speaking, I would say a mix between market opportunity, timing on how mature the customers are in terms of how ready they are to adopt the product, or at least test the product, and finally, how strong is the team. I mean, at the end of the day, when you have a product, a lot of people have ideas. It's also about execution, but it's also about thinking about the, the quality of the team and wondering, do you think that the team that you're seeing today is the best that, or close to the best that you could see if you were to wait 2-3 more years and build the same product? And if the answer is yes, then we decide to pull the trigger. If the answer is no, we still look for the right team to execute on that vision.
Maybe another, I think, very interesting question also to you, see your personal views, Silvan and David. We have the question from Rico. How do you think STO security tokens or asset-backed tokenization, including NFTs market, tend to go down the road?
I can say a small word and then I have to leave very unfortunately. I think that, I mean, and that's my personal view as well, but on asset-backed tokens or STO, I think that the relevance to me depends on the nature of the specific assets. To me, as of today, the best example of tokenization of asset has been in FX, i.e., currencies with stable coins, cryptocurrencies. For me, it's a way of tokenizing, dollars, and that's what we're talking about, the digital gold or digital dollar, etc. So I think that it pretty much vary on the nature of the underlying assets. Tokenization of real estate, I understand where it was coming from, but if a company is providing real estate tokenization and basing its revenue streams on transaction, I really doubt that they're going to be making a lot of capital, because I don't see people investing in real estate to transact on a daily basis, etc. So to me, if we're talking about FX, you got daily movements, you got daily catalysts, and you got large volumes being traded. But if the underlying asset is prone to a long-term investment, tokenization can have some value, but I'm not sure that it's 100% necessary. But that's my personal view. And then if I need to derive on NFTs, I mean, we've seen, I mean, Silva, you were mentioning DEX getting massive volumes, Uniswap going into V3, quite interesting to see that. Big boom as well on the DeFi side, also on the NFT side, and now I start to see a lot more projects, trying to combine the two between DeFi and NFTs, because I mean, liquidity is needed in some emerging projects on the DeFi world. Sometimes that liquidity can come in and come back, which creates some sort of volatility and pressure, on token prices. But suddenly, if you manage to lock the liquidity and get an NFT on the back of that could be traded on the secondary market without, impacting the actual liquidity buffer on the token side, it's something that I see that is quite interesting. So this is a bit outside of what we see around art, digital art, etc. But I think it's quite interesting to see how this is going to play out. And I mean, there's a lot of projects like those. I'm sure you guys are aware of, like guys like Alchemist, or I don't know, like how is it called? Visor Finance, or even NFY, or those kind of things. So those are quite interesting projects. Very early days, but I'm just curious to see, how it's going to play out and how those ecosystems are going to merge together. But I'm super sorry, I'll need to jump off. It's been a real pleasure to to speak to you, Sylvain and Martin, and for all the participants. And I mean, you got all my details on the website, or Martin, you can share that with the audience. More than happy to connect with anyone that would like to reach out and discuss.
Thank you very much, David,
for
your time and your interesting insights. We let you jump out and have a good next meeting. And I think Silvan and myself we'll talk another few minutes and have some other questions which came up. And thanks again.
Thank you.
Stay in touch and
take
all
care.
The very best.
Speak soon, everyone. Take care.
Thank you.
Bye, David.
Stay safe.
I mean, would you like me to address my view of the STO
I would say
question?
so. Yes, please.
I think it's the STO security token was quite early already a discussion in the crypto space, but never really pushed to the market where it made sense in a way of people understood it or the infrastructure was there. So from my point of view, this is definitely where it goes. Asset-backed tokenization. including NFTs, but infrastructure needs to improve. There is still a lot of uncertainty. There is a lot of hacks or stuff which doesn't make it yet to an industry standard or to compete with with what is out there yet. But I think it's definitely a way of where we see a lot of exchange in different value or assets going down in the future.
Yeah, I think I mean, here, if I may also give my view, I think absolutely. I mean, until now, there was lots of hope in asset token, security token. Projects didn't yet fly as we hoped. But I think there is a very clear reason also to that, because we just don't have a secondary market which is functioning. We don't have yet the exchanges which can handle security tokens. I mean, we're lucky here in Switzerland, you know, this license as a Handelsplatz, as a trade platform for security token. The regulatory framework will come into force August 2021. We will see, and I think it will be a very interesting discussion also to discuss what kind of projects now are in the pipeline to create a functioning secondary market for security token. And I expect that lots will happen in this space, but it will probably still take some time. I mean, we are probably just in the beginning now with these coins, which we know, but in the end, I mean, this is the goal still of the whole crypto world, in my opinion, to make it possible peer-to-peer trading with assets in a tokenized form, automated with low fees and a high level of security. I mean, that's where I would like to see the space. But to be honest, we have to see where it heads and how long it takes. Eventually, I'm quite sure this will happen, be it in 1 year, be it in 5 years. We don't know yet exactly. Maybe there we have another question, last question to you, because there were some questions about SUs, but I think we responded to them. We have one question from Sebastian to directly address to you, Sylvan. With equity asset management, security prices are the result of the abundance of available public information on companies. However, in crypto, tokens have much less available information. Therefore, what do you look at to fairly value your investments? When to buy, when to sell, beyond looking at technical and price action, of course. I think a very valuable impact in the end. I mean, until now, we are very market-driven, lots of FOMO also in the market, also fear, depending then in a bear market, and very difficult probably to assess a real price. Do you have a technique here which is out of technical charts?
Well, it's a very good question. I mean, let's say blockchain or tokens, they do give some sort of transparency, right? You can look at on GitHub, most of that data is publicly available, which helps to assess where it goes. It ties into the question of what do we look at to start trading in a token or include that in an investment strategy next to just price or technical analysis. So there is obviously restricted information, but also we can look at how many wallets are out there, how many tokens are distributed by how many wallet holders. Are these tokens or these wallets, just holding the tokens, or they are moving it around? Is the liquidity there, etc.? Is it trading on exchanges because they are market makers having contract with the companies to push the price or to make the market liquid, or is it trading there because the demand is there, like for example Bitcoin? So I think these are points which we take into consideration, and to make the decision of when to buy, when to sell. Clearly, in a, let's say, in a bull market where we are in now, it's easier to make these assessments to say, hey, just buy and hold. But I think there we work with strategies or signals as well to use that volatility which is still there in the market.
I think that's absolutely right. And maybe also a question from Sarah, also to you, Sylvain. You've mentioned that Africa seemed to be like a very interesting place, good opportunity for crypto projects. Any observations to share with us?
Yeah, I think it's one of the, let's say, continents where the use case of all these payments or tokens or Bitcoin is really there, right? Nigeria was stopping all companies which were involved in crypto and not close down their bank accounts, but that was still a high market, or the demand was there. Why I think the opportunity is there, because Africa has made the technological advancement to have smartphones to be at that level, so they don't need to go through that stack, which we have done, and they have access to all that, but they don't have access to banking infrastructure, which blockchain solves, so which cryptocurrency can't solve. So that's why I see the opportunities there. I'm leaning more towards what Norman is telling me, because he's coming from that area, saying that Wanda is quite industry leading in terms of innovation. There's a fintech hub in Africa which tries to put together a lot of minds to push regulatory infrastructure, to push innovation, to push projects. So I just pay close attention and see that, Africa is going to have a major role in the future in that crypto market, I believe.
I share your opinion. I think they don't have this legacy system which we have implemented, so I think they opt directly the most modern and most lean and best possibility to provide to its citizens, and probably blockchain technology will be really an important, or Africa will be a very important driver just to this the whole issue, of course, banking, the unbanked, and also this high penetration of cell phones, etc. I think this will be it's an important driver as one thing, and then the second driver for sure is high inflation rates combined with the poor infrastructure about accounting and investing and so on. I mean, this is also, of course, then crypto don't allow, and blockchain coins are an important exit out of the local currency, and this is probably also an important driver. I mean, we see the adoption in this kind of countries with high inflation and no possibilities for its citizens to get out of the local currency. I think this is a very important driver, and this is probably one of really an important achievement of the current cryptocurrency. Probably like this, it helped thousands, hundreds, thousands, millions of people to protect their hard-earned money, and I hope it will do also further and more like this. I have another question which was addressed to me, and then I would say we stop afterwards. How do I envision digital exchanges getting such a license, Uniswap or similar folks? I mean, I think we are very lucky here in Switzerland that we have a good and clear, even severe legislation. I think this license will be available. I don't know yet. As I told you, we will try, or we are already planning an event where we discuss this, which projects are in the pipeline getting such trading license for coins and crypto assets. And we will see. We know that the Swiss Stock Exchange 6 has this project SDX, the Swiss Digital Exchange. They talk, or it's in discussion in public since quite some time. We have to see where they stand exactly. I expect that they will try to be one of the first applying for such a license. Maybe Silvan, you have some news here too. We know also other traditional stock exchange. I know that Stuttgart Stock Exchange, they are pushing hard. They want to trade security as security coins, etc. And probably also some other providers will step into this market, because this is really the missing piece for a functioning environment in security coins or security tokens. Maybe Silvan, do you have any thoughts on this?
Yeah, I'm not quite sure if Uniswap should get a license, right? It's a decentralized exchange, so it should be without any KYC and directly peer-to-peer. But yeah, as Martin said, how we address it in the future, or SIX is there, Deutsche Börse is there. These companies going towards that industry, they don't want to miss out. The demand is there, that they're looking into it. So the general natural request is, okay, what is the regulatory environment we can operate to offer these kind of services, especially when you're a licensed exchange. So you can't just start offering unlicensed services just because there's no infrastructure. So I think we will see how it goes in the coming this year and next year, and what Switzerland is pushing forward. I don't really know in any other jurisdiction how they approach it.
Yeah, I think we will see. I mean, for sure, it's a very important part to create, to bring this whole token trades out also of the OTC world into regulated markets, to create comfort and security also for retail, automated procedures. We will see what will happen here. I hope that in Europe and in Switzerland that we follow a pragmatic approach, where of course we have to have very focused KYC procedures, but on the other hand also really not to build burden which make it basically impossible, and especially which would take the access also for retail investors. I mean, I don't know if you have expected, if you open an account at eToro or at Robinhood, how easy this is compared to opening a bank account here at some major bank, where you have to go through a due diligence process with the telephone book size. So I hope that we'll find, on the one hand side, that we protect our our markets from criminal or illicit money or parties, but on the other hand, that we do not protect it so much that it's impossible for retail investors to access investment opportunities which are also needed for them. So with these words, I would like to close our today's event. Thank you very much, Silvan. Thank you again, David, who has already left us. And I hope that our listeners and viewers and participants have enjoyed it. thank you very much. Looking forward to seeing you at the next time. We have scheduled a next meeting in beginning of May with some US investment firms. Another approach than today. I hope that you'll join then, and I wish you a good evening. All the very best, and stay happy and safe and healthy. Bye bye. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. It was a pleasure.
Thank you, Silvan. My pleasure.
Have a good evening.
You
Bye,
too.
Martin.